What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the Triple H podcast, Happy Hour Hoops, presented by Train Wreck Sports. Steve, Jake, and myself here to talk all things NBA with you guys. We got a wild season going on, folks. We got SGA, who's at the top of the MVP ladder. We're just discussing that, whether you like it or not. He's minus 650. Steve told me and Jake right before we started recording. He drops a career high 54 points last night. All stars right around the corner. The starters are actually getting revealed tonight at 7:30. So lock into our socials after you listen here, if you're listening live, to see those starters. And yeah, we're back with the fellas talking ball. No place I'd rather be. How we doing, guys?
Living the dream, man. Just trying to stay warm. I don't know about y'all. It's been a freezing week this week, but that's what you ask for basketball. You know, it's like a nice respite. You get inside the gym, get if you're, I don't know if you're playing basketball, I guess, but I'm just sitting on my couch watching this basketball. We talked about it a little bit before, a disappointing Cavs result last night, but other than that, having a good week. How about you, Steve?
The NBA and we're going through it right now. And you know, like all great relationships, sometimes you gotta have some bad times with the good times. You gotta know you can get out of the mud. And I've been in the mud with the NBA a few times before, but right now I'm in quicksand. And the NBA and I are going through it. I got a little rant maybe later on in the show that I'm gonna dive into, because you guys have felt kind of how I felt about the NBA so far this season, the way it's kind of been trending, the ratings, watching the games, and then, you know, what's kept me locked in on the NBA the past 3 years, the Mavs have gone the complete opposite direction. And a couple weeks ago, I talked to you guys and I said, as long as we tread water, we're going to be okay. Well, someone just started poking holes in the boat, because this boat's sinking faster than I expected it to, and we're borderline disaster territory right now. But overall, we're doing okay. It'll be nice to talk some basketball again. Maybe you guys can talk me off the ledge. Maybe you guys can bring me back to putting the NBA on the main TV and not having it on my third little screen right now, because I need some help. I need to get back locked in. And I think talking with you guys is going to help me out, because we might be gearing up for an all-time Stevie Rant episode. And I mean, in our document, guys, I might be talking positively about the Pistons and the Grizzlies. I mean, what's going on? What am I doing?
What are you doing, man? Have some respect. Have some self-respect, Steve. What's going on?
Yeah, crazy stuff going on in the NBA. We'll get to all of it. Pistons. I'm actually gonna have to add on to your little Pistons rant there, Steve, for something I said earlier this year. But we'll get to all of that. News and notes here, as we always start. SGA mentioned it, 54 points, career high for him last night. I believe he had 17 free throws, so that's, you know, the one thing that people like to knock Shea for. I believe he had more free throws than the Jazz team last night. It was like
the 17 to 15 or 16.
Half my timeline was, you know, celebrating SGA's career high. The other half was, you know, shitting on him for doing it with free throws. However, he got there. He is the favorite MVP. Yeah, but not what every fan's looking for there. You know, Embiid gets the same criticism, but he is the MVP favorite right now. Obviously, you know, OKC's balling. Whether you like SGA or not, it's probably deserving at this point. But we have this guy Joker who's sticking around as well. So probably talk OKC Nuggets a little more in the pod. All-star starters getting revealed tonight, like I mentioned, and then I threw this in the news and notes because these two quotes were interesting to me. In the same week, you had LeBron and Steph kind of talking about the state of their respected teams, the Lakers for LeBron, Warriors for Steph, obviously. Steph's comments were kind of, you know, let's not make any panic moves right now, acknowledging that the Warriors are struggling, but doesn't want to, cause destruction to the future necessarily. Where LeBron, not that he said we need to cause destruction to the future, but basically just saying we're not good enough right now and we need to play perfect throughout. JJ Redick kind of had similar comments this week as well. Where are you guys at with Warriors, Lakers, or Steph and LeBron? However you guys want to go with this.
I feel like it's the first time I've probably 15 years. It almost feels like LeBron and Steph are just kind of flying under the radar.
Yeah, a little bit.
The same way where we're not constantly talking about Steph and LeBron all the time. Their teams are just kind of both fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like their teams, they aren't horrible. They aren't like championship caliber. They're just kind of there. I think the Warriors are a game below 500. The Lakers are I think 5 games above 500, and they're just, they're fine. Their games are fine, but it doesn't feel like it's thrown into our face all the time in the media. Steph, LeBron, look what they did. Look what they did. They're both playing solid basketball. It's just, to me, this almost feels like a move that, and I don't think these guys would do it. It's like they're just going to kind of go out just kind of quietly into the night, right? But I don't think that's how it's going to go. Or this is just kind of saying that, like, maybe they want to change the scenery. Like Steph's quote, Donnie, to be honest, where he's talking about don't damage the future of the Warriors. I almost feel like in a way he's saying, like, don't trade your future to try to go for one more championship with me here. Like he's done enough, right? He's been loyal to this team, loyal to this city. It almost feels like Steph's like, I'm just going to die with the ship, or maybe I'll just end my career, 1 year, 2 year stint somewhere else. And that almost, a lot of people probably take that negatively, right? I almost take that positively, where Steph's kind of like, hey, this team has done everything for me. They've helped me out so much, helped me in my career. And I'm going to, return the favor by basically saying, like, hey, don't throw everything away in the future for me. Like I will do what's kind of best for this organization, and not really truly to help myself, but a kind of a win-win situation. And that's kind of what I took away from that. And then I think LeBron is kind of not as similar with Steph, but I think LeBron's just kind of being like, we don't really have the team right now. Like,
yeah, just telling it how it is.
We don't really have the team. He's not really telling the Lakers we got to go get the team, but I think he's just kind of being realistic. Like, hey, man, look at this.
That's where I think it's a classic LeBron pushing back.
LeBron wants him to get someone?
It's a very passive aggressive. And JJ's in on it. JJ, they both said the same exact, because when I was reading the story, I was like, okay, Bron, like, never, I've heard this before, whatever. But it wasn't the most like outward. Like, he's been very much way more outward in the past about this. But then JJ almost said the same exact line that LeBron said about them not having enough. Can't remember what it was, or maybe it was about them having to play perfect. I think it was the same thing. So you can tell it's like something among them, but it is a very subtle way of being like, but if we had one more guy, our margin for error would be a little bigger. But the big thing with them also, sorry to interrupt you, Steve, but the big thing also with this is the injuries too. Like they've had guys out that were supposed to be contributors all year, Vanderbilt and Christian Wood. What you think of those guys? I mean, it doesn't matter how you rate them. They were going to have a big role like on that team too. So that's kind of the shitty part for Bron when you're 40 years old and you're the healthy one and these fucking guys can't stay on the court. Like I'd be pissed too. So.
Well, I think that's where the difference is, right? I feel like Steph doesn't expect the Warriors to make the move, doesn't really want him to. And to your point, Jake, I feel like LeBron is almost kind of saying like, this is what we got. Either you make them, not saying you have to do it, but it's like this is what we have. Do with it what you will.
Yeah. It's crazy. Jake, I know you want to talk about both these teams in a little bit, so we don't have to talk too much about what this team looks like going forward, or either of these teams look like going forward. But for me, it just kind of seems like if Steph was being honest about what he said, like it's almost like honorable, and I think he hopes the fans see it that way, because you're right, Steve. Like this is a guy who's obviously beloved. Like what more could you really ask for if you're a Warriors fan? And I think that this quote almost sets him up to be, like you said, like it can either be, we can stick around, and if you guys don't want to make a huge move, then maybe please, like even a win-win, like maybe let me go somewhere else for a few years, and then you guys can use me as an asset to get better. Like, don't destroy everything if you're taking a huge risk and we might not be able to do anything with it. And then LeBron, like, I think he's also just being honest too. Like, I think you're right, Jake. I think it is probably a nudge, but I think he probably knows deep down, like, the Lakers have kind of exhausted their options since he's been there.
True.
So it's probably, they're probably at a point where they're going to be like, okay, is it Davis or Braun at this point? And they might get to a point where one of those guys has to be moved. Lakers fans obviously hope not. Those two, I'm sure, obviously hope not as well. But that kind of seems like where it's at. And then this next piece of news here, I mean, Jimmy Butler, man, he can't stay out of the news.
No, he can't.
Our show, Shams' tweets, what at first take, no matter what. Jimmy Butler's been in the news this season. Suspended 2 more games for missing a team flight on Wednesday. He's been fined up to $3 million so far, between the first fine, this fine, and in all sorts of trade talks. And it kind of goes into the next piece of news here where this weird Jazz Sun trade happens the other night, and the Jazz, they send 3 first-round picks, and they bring in a 2031 unprotected first-round pick from the Suns. So basically banking on the Suns being real bad in about 6 years' time, which, the way their roster is constructed, that's, good guess right now. And then the Suns, they needed assets. They gave up a lot to get the guys they have on their squad right now, and they're not wildly happy about it. So they're trying to make some moves for the future, trying to make sure they're not screwed going forward when, KD walks off into the sunset, or if he, demands another trade. So yeah, this whole thing is kind of all intertwined somehow, because Beal's been rumored and trades to the Heat, and Butler, possible Suns candidate. It's all weird stuff going on. And then Danny Ainge just had to be involved in a strange trade because that's what he does.
Yeah, I know. When I saw the trade, my first thought was like, why would the Jazz do this? I was just like, why would you trade up more picks? Like, you're like a 3-for-1 swap, and like, well, what are we doing here if you're the Jazz? I feel like they're a team right now that should be accumulating as many picks as possible right now, looking for a first-round pick 6 years from now. But hey, Donnie, like you said, Danny Ainge, who knows? And
Danny Ainge, that's a job security trade is what that is. He's like, I got some extra picks. I'll take one in 2031 from the Suns when all these guys are washed. It's crazy. Like, he knows he's not going anywhere, bro.
I guess that's fair. And then Jimmy Butler, I'm at the point where I think Jimmy Butler intentionally missed his flight.
Yeah. He definitely skipped that flight.
Yeah. This wasn't like a running late mistake here. I think he just like, skipped. He's him and the Heat are playing chess right now. And I think it's about to get ugly. And we've already seen it with suspensions and fines, like you said, Donnie. But Jimmy Butler, if we know Jimmy Butler over the course of his NBA career, we know 2 things about him. 3 things. He's a good player. I'll give him 1 there. He's a good player. Yep. Number 2, he's stubborn. And number 3, he will do what it takes to get what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
So him and the Heat right now are in a little bit of a chess match, and I'm excited to see, especially with the deadline coming up, where who will win that chess match. At least I'll say.
Yeah, and Pat Riley's also stubborn and will go to lengths to do to get what he wants.
Exactly.
And the weird thing here is, like, they had that game in Portland on Tuesday night. They lose to the Portland Trailblazers. Jimmy takes 9 shots. Didn't play poorly, but only played 27 minutes. Like guys like Khalil Ware, rookie, Duncan Robinson, I believe Jovic had more minutes than him that night. Just like, it's strange. And like, yeah, maybe you could say you're conservative, Jimmy, but based on everything that's going on, like, this, something weird's happening here. Obviously, the Windhorse meme was thrown around a bunch when this trade happened. We're waiting for all the dominoes to fall.
Did you see Mark Spears, what he said today?
I didn't.
Jimmy Butler is willing to accept a trade to any team in the NBA except the Memphis Grizzlies. I don't know what he hates about Memphis particularly. That was an legit report from NBA Today. Mark Spears on there said Jimmy Butler is willing to accept a trade to any team.
He'd go to the Wizards over the Grizzlies.
Yeah.
There's no shot. If I'm the Heat right now, ship him to Washington. Call his bluff.
Is Jimmy's agent just going rogue?
What is wrong? Does he hate Ja Morant? Like, what's going on with
I wonder if it's Marcus Smart, but Marcus Smart would undoubtedly be a part of that deal.
Yeah, probably.
Here we go. Here I found it. It is from
That's strange as hell,
p.m.
man.
today.
Jimmy's a weird cat.
Like I said, they're playing chess. You don't know what their move's going to be next.
Yeah, he shouldn't have said that. Pat Riley was like, "Oh, bet? Yeah, you're going to fucking Brooklyn." Buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
We got this up here. It's loading.
Jimmy Butler's trade wish list is simply to leave Miami as long as he's not traded to Memphis. Trade him to Washington. You got to send him to the Wizards, Pat Riley.
Wow. That would be hilarious.
That's strange. And that was like, I mean, for a week and a half, that was the landing spot.
Poor Grizzlies.
The replies are the best.
What I really don't know what could possibly like what the issue is, but
yeah, this is
so Jimmy willing to go to Washington apparently, but not Memphis.
Strange stuff there, man. Maybe he doesn't want to.
Here we go. Slick's talking.
Get him out of the country.
Send him to Toronto.
Yes. Send him out of the country. Slick says.
You're hanging out with Drake now, buddy. Here you go. Drake's coming to pick you up in Miami.
See how Big Face Coffee does in Toronto.
Yeah.
That's wild. We'll see with Jimmy Butler. In my three big things, I'm going to talk about the deadline a bit, so his name will come up again. Rounding out the notes here, Derek Lively. Steve, I told you we wouldn't spend too much time on it. Just this is more like, obviously, it's just an insane injury bug for the Mavericks team, but just sucks for the player. Like a guy who's just been, a very bright young star in this league. Derek Lively out 2 to 3 months with a foot injury. Biggs with foot injuries, scary stuff. Hate to see it. And then last piece of news here, Franz Wagner returning from his oblique injury.
They need it.
Yeah.
They've lost 4 straight. They need it.
About a week and a half ago. Franz is on his way back now. Magic, interesting story. Like they started the year so hot. They were like playing well when Paolo went down. Franz goes down, kind of dipped a bit, and then they've just been kind of weird since Paolo's been back, and now Franz is returning. So maybe they'll get back on track here.
Yeah.
Another one too, Donnie. I know you talked about Derek Lively as a young player who's hurt out 2-3 months. Brandon Miller. I don't know if you guys saw today. Brandon Miller out for the year. Out for the year. Torn ligament in his wrist, I believe, and he's out for the year. He got hurt last year too. He was hurt for parts of this year. And Brandon Miller, whenever he's been healthy, he's been delivering on the court, averaging I think 21 points, like 3.5 threes, 5 rebounds, 4 assists a game. He's been great, and just another tough one. I mean, you look at kind of this rookie class from the previous year. There's so many guys who've been battling minutes these past 2 years. Obviously, you have Wemby who highlighted it, but I think we both agreed on this podcast that last year, I think Miller and Lively kind of separated themselves in that second tier of rookies from that class, where Wemby's the clear one, and then those guys were kind of 2 and 3. And to see both out, for long periods of time, it just kind of stinks, especially right now where, outside of Wemby and maybe a couple other names, the NBA really needs to find some new young stars. And I'm not talking guys who played 3, 4, 5 years. I'm talking about the rookies, the year 2 guys, right? The sophomores, the year 3 guys, the guys that, the common fans don't really kind of know yet, that you want to tune in to watch. And when you have, in my opinion, the second and third best players from the rookie class of last year out long periods of time. Miller out for the year. Lively, 2 to 3 months right now. I wouldn't be shocked if it turns into a season ending. That's just tough. That's just tough. Whether you're a fan of the teams or not, it just kind of sucks.
Yeah, tough one. Yeah, I definitely meant to add the Brandon Miller thing there. And I know the Hornets only have 11 wins. They're an 11-win team, but like LaMelo's been playing great this year. He's been staying healthy, which is kind of a rarity. And then, Brandon Miller was also playing well. and he goes down. So
and Mark Williams, since they traded Nick Richards, Mark Williams has kind of stepped in as the number one big man role. And this would be, maybe not a team that would win a lot of games, but at least a fun team to watch when Williams, Ball, Miller are all healthy. So
yeah, great league pass team. I don't mind.
Yeah.
I don't mind throwing them on the league pass every now and then, but tough.
You might have to switch the commentary though from the Hornets. It can be a lot. It can. It can be a lot if you're watching more than about 5 minutes at a time.
Absolutely, it can. All right, do you guys want to get into the three big things here?
Yeah,
let's do it.
Jake, let's start with you because we kind of started with the Warriors Lakers talk, and I actually love this discussion piece here.
Let's start on the negative. Let's do it. This is what I like to do here. It's a very simple question to you guys here. Who's fucked? Who's more fucked out of these 5 teams? These are 5 teams, big market. National media loves talking about these teams, has for years. Obviously, big superstars on these 5 teams, all with very murky futures. And honestly, you can make a case for any of them. So this is just a really fun exercise to me to see what we think about the team building aspects of all these teams going forward and what they can do. The Lakers, here are your options. The Lakers, the Warriors, the teams we discussed earlier, as Dunny alluded to there. The Phoenix Suns, who, as we alluded to, traded their 2031 unprotected for 3 first-rounders to probably try to make a trade this year and then give up more assets for the present. The Sixers and the Miami Heat, as we talked about with the Jimmy Butler situation earlier.
I think
whichever one you want to take that.
I think this one's easy for me, and I think we should rank them too because I think it'd be curious to see our rankings. But I think it's the Phoenix Suns. And I think the Phoenix Suns out of these 5 might have the best chance of the 5 to win a championship this year or maybe even next year. But their future's it's bleak, man. It's bleak. And you have like this problem with the Phoenix Suns is you've never really had that true team chemistry, right? Even when they made their big splashes last year, you have Bradley Beal, you have Kevin Durant, they never were really gelling on the court well at the same time. They couldn't even play a lot of games together at the same time. You bring in Tyus Jones, you have Yusuf Nurkic, they trade for Nick Richards. They trade, 3 picks to get one. Like I don't understand really what the Suns move is, in my opinion. And it's a team where I feel like they're doing we're going all in to win a championship window. Then the window might be closed. And the window might be closed because I look at the Phoenix Suns right now, and I think they're a great team, and I love Kevin Durant. I think he's as good as anybody, but he's definitely on, the decline of his career. Now, he's still elite. He's still a superstar, but he is on the decline of his career. Devin Booker, I feel like he's kind of flatlined since, a few years ago where like, Devin Booker is going to be one of the faces of the league. He's going to be next guy. Feels like, he can be pretty good scorer. They brought Tyus Jones in to be that true point guard, and he's been a little inconsistent there. I don't like their depth, but the biggest thing here is I don't like the Suns' young talent at all. And it's a situation, right, where you have a team that, like you said, they're trading for these extra picks, right, to, maybe go get a guy at the deadline. But it's a situation where you're trading for someone in a timeline where it's like, all right, you have to win this year, or you have to win next year, or you're done. And to be honest with you guys, even if they trade for a guy like a Jimmy Butler, right, or let's even say a guy like, I don't think they get him, but a Zach LaVine, right? I don't think they win the West. I don't think they beat OKC in a 7-game series. I don't even know if they beat Memphis in a 7-game series. You got Houston, who's playing great this year and is kind of a team that's going up, and up, right? Because they got a young core. They're building together. There's someone who could maybe make a move. It feels like Phoenix is going down. They're trending downwards. You have so many teams in the West trending upwards, but Phoenix is like, all right, we got to go try to win it all. And it's like, I don't think you can. And if that's the case, we talked briefly about the Lakers and the Warriors, and I think the Warriors are probably in the best position of these 5, and I can get into that after you guys, we discuss the Suns. But I think the Lakers and the Warriors, even the Sixers and Heat to a little degree kind of have an identity of what they are. And I feel like the Suns are just, they're looking in the mirror and they think they are the best looking guy in the room. And I can tell you right now, they are not. And that's not good when you kind of have an identity crisis like that, where, yeah, you have Kevin Durant. Yeah, you have Devin Booker, but you had them for years and it hasn't worked. And you think bringing in another star that's probably in the downturn of their career is going to help? And just look at the Suns roster. Look at some of the young players or young talent they have. It doesn't even compare to the other 4 teams.
The identity thing's a very good point. That's not really something I was taking into consideration, just thinking about this off the top of my head. But that is a good point with the Suns. I don't know if they're in the worst shape here. I think I would make the argument that the Sixers could be in the worst shape here, even with Maxey. But it's only because I don't think they're willing to move off Embiid. And I do think even if they get to the point where they are, I don't think anyone's going to trade for him, because I think starting next year, he makes like $54 million. Then the year after that, it's like $60 million. Then I think it gets up to like almost $70 million that third year on his contract. And like, we've seen what it looks like when it's just Maxey, and Maxey's awesome and he's a great young player, but he can't do it on his own, at least not yet. He hasn't shown that. And then I think like Suns and Sixers would probably be my 2 lowest on the list. I think anyone, just a quick little blurb about each team here. Like, I think the Lakers are kind of safe because it's the Lakers. And I think even after the AD Bron era, I think people will want to play there. I also think if they get to a point where it's just AD and Bron either moves on or retires, I think AD still has a few more years where he's an asset that people will pay hefty price for. And I think the Warriors, as long as they have Steph, like, they worry me a little bit, just what they've done in the draft in the last couple of years with Kuminga and Pods and Wiseman. And now they're kind of in this spot where they traded Poole on even with all the drama, like, it was kind of cheap. Like, you got Chris Paul and you still had to give up a pick, and now Chris Paul is not even here. And the Heat, I think they're okay because I like the guys on their team outside of Jimmy, and I think someone's about to overpay for Jimmy Butler at this deadline. So I think they'll bring in assets and picks. I like Bam. Hero's not my favorite, but I think he's held in a high regard around the league. So if you need to trade a guy like Hero, I think people would pay up for someone like him. And then I like Jovic and I like Khalil Ware as well.
Jaime Jaquez too.
Yeah, Jaquez, exactly. I actually think the Heat are – I might put number 1 on this list, which is crazy.
I think I'm right there with you. I think I'm right there with you, Dunny, where I think the Heat and the Warriors are kind of my 1A, 1B and best spot. And kind of what I talked about earlier is, these teams know how to draft well historically. Like, they don't miss it. I know Potts is kind of have a down year, but no one really expected Potts to have the rookie year he did, right? Trace Jackson Davis, no one really expected him to kind of have the year he's been having. And they just kind of get these guys. Even when Moses Moody was getting minutes, he was making a role, and these guys just kind of fill in. Kuminga, I thought, has taken a huge step from where he started his career to now. And they have assets they can move. Curry, they could get stuff for Curry if they really wanted to, but like we talked about earlier on the show, when Curry was just kind of not really, like I said, I think Curry's just kind of going with the flow, and he knows the Warriors have been good to him. He has a good relationship. Now, I know the Heat and Jimmy Butler kind of opposite in that situation, but they would still get assets from Jimmy Butler if they're able to get a deal done. And then they have the young talent, and then they have some other assets there. The Lakers, I'm kind of right there with you, Dunny, right in the middle. I think they would be 3rd for me because, the Lakers, LeBron is still unbelievable when he's on the court. I mean, Austin Reeves shocked me how good he is. I love Dalton Knecht as well. And, there's still pieces they could trade there. And then I go Sixers probably 2 before Phoenix for the simple reason is Sixers have young talent. McCain looked great before he got Tyrese Maxey. Yeah, he hasn't shown he can be a true one, but he's been great when he's on the court, with another star. And then also, too, Dunny, I get your point where no one probably may take on Embiid. I promise you, if the Sixers have Embiid up for like a bidding war in the offseason, they're going to get a big return for Joel Embiid. It's just going to happen. So on that side, I think the Sixers, I give the bump to over the Suns. The biggest thing with the Suns, and this is my biggest concern, is you look at the guys who are playing significant minutes, right? And I'm going to go down the list real quick for you guys. Grayson Allen, 29 years old. Bradley Beal, 31 years old. Allen, 15 million. Bradley Beal, 30 million. They have Bol at 25. Doesn't play much, but he hasn't really done anything. And Bol at this point is a meme more than anything. Devin Booker, 28, 49 million. Kevin Durant, 36, 51 million. Tyus Jones, 28, 2 million there. That's fine, whatever. Monte Morris, 29, 2 million. You have Yusuf Nurkic, 30 years old at 18 million. Royce O'Neal, 31 years old at 9 million. Mason Plumlee, 34 at 2 million. Then Nick Richards at 5 million at 27. Nick Richards at 27 is their youngest player who's playing like legitimate minutes. That's a
crazy.
concern.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
But that's a concern, right? Because you don't even have these young guys really on the court, really getting involved too much. And that to me is a huge red flag, because it's like, then if you trade these, if they're not going to try to fire sale and burn it down and trade off, a couple superstars and do a full rebuild, right? They're clearly not doing that. That's why I think they have the identity crisis, because they are in the mindset of, we have the guys, we got to build around them. It hasn't worked. They can't stay healthy. They can't stay on the court at the same time. And when it does blow up in their face, because I believe the window is shut and locked right now, and when it does blow up in the face, they don't have the young guys to kind of at least give them that 1 year, 2 buffer while they have a full rebuild. Philly does. The Lakers kind of do. Warriors and Heat. Yeah. Phoenix doesn't.
It's crazy, man. Yeah, the Phoenix. Yeah, you sold me a little bit on Phoenix here. Maybe it's my bias against the Sixers. I would still have them most fucked on this list, just because I just think the Joel thing is just scary.
Agreed.
Because even if they don't, like, if they go the direction where they don't want to trade him, I think keeping him is like just as scary as trying to put him out there and seeing what you get. Because of this year and what we're seeing. Obviously, McCain gets hurt too. George has missed time. Like they have the injury bug as well, so it's not all fair. But Jake, where are you on your own teams that you threw out here?
You guys hit the nail on the head. It's the Suns. The Suns they're not even good this year with the all-in team. So the fact that they have no flexibility, they are 10th in the West. They're 22-21, and they have a negative point differential. Like they're not a good team. And even if they make the playoffs, they're getting smoked by Houston or OKC in the first round, even Memphis, Denver, any of those teams, those top 4 teams. I do think the Lakers, even barring a Davis trade, are pretty screwed, because I don't see. We saw what the Lakers looked like without a star. Do we have any faith that they're going to be able to get back to that if LeBron leaves and they trade AD? Like, who's gonna is any star gonna want to go play there? And player movement isn't really a thing anymore. Like, it's not like you kind of have to hit on these hits, get these guys in to do this. And the last time we saw the Lakers try to do that, they did build up a good treasure trove of assets to move for Anthony Davis. But if they would have kept that team together, what would it have looked like, right? Like, it would, if it was a team of Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Julius Randle, that team's not winning a title or doing anything crazy. So all the baby Lakers that Lakers fans were obsessed with and didn't want to get rid of, and they were so untouchable and everything. Well, it turns out they probably, and who knows, Lonzo's injury changed the whole trajectory of his career, so that might not be completely fair, but he had injury issues all the way through, and he was still wearing Big Baller Brand, which is why he got hurt. He has said that himself. So, I mean, that's where we're at this point. So I do think the Lakers are a pretty terrible spot, and that's kind of like the fact that the end is clearly right there, and there's so much. Like, at least the Suns, I think Suns fans didn't. I don't know if Suns fans had expectations going into this year. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but I think they could see the flaws with this team. I don't think Lakers fans do that. I think Lakers fans are like, nah, we got LeBron and AD. And right now, as we are sitting here, they are only 3 games out of a playoff spot. The Warriors are only 3 games behind them, but they are currently sitting in the 5 seed. This is a team that's positioned really well, but they also have a negative point differential. And I don't think any of us sitting here think the Lakers are particularly a good basketball team. I think they're perfectly average, but
Right.
they're not a good team. So the Lakers are higher up on that list. I do think the Sixers would be 3rd on there. I agree with all the issues there. I love Maxey as a 2nd or 3rd guy. As a 1st guy, I wouldn't love it. And they have to get rid of Embiid. And so I do think if the longer they hold on to him, I think that situation gets worse. Miami's a big unknown, but people are going to want to go play in Miami, and they're going to get a decent haul back for Butler. It's not going to be a hard sell to try to get people to come play with Bam and Tyler Hero if it's another star, but we've also seen them be able to develop guys out of thin air. So I'm not as worried about Miami. I think they'd be lower on this list. And the Warriors I think everything you guys said about Steph earlier is exactly right. I think he's doing it out of respect to the Oregon. Like, don't sell everything. Like, I want you guys to be good forever. And I think he loves that place and feels like that's what he owes. Like, they don't need another title. Steph doesn't need another title. And maybe he does end up, maybe he goes to the Lakers next year, or maybe he goes to the Nuggets or one of these other teams to try to chase a ring. But I don't think he's going to chase a ring in Golden State anymore. And I think that's going to allow them to kind of be smart. And the organization's made a lot of smart decisions over the last 15 years. So I'm willing to give them a crack at a rebuild and not think that situation's going to be terrible. But I think that Lakers, it was bad for a while after Kobe like kind of fell off, and then the end before LeBron showed up. Like, it was dire. And I don't know if enough has changed in that organization that could fix that, because LeBron's running the organization. Like, we know that. Like, LeBron has as much power as Rob Pelinka, JJ Redick, anybody else in there, right? So what happens when LeBron leaves and your identity, like we were talking about identities earlier, that's the identity. The identity of the Lakers is LeBron James right now. So what happens when he leaves, you know? But that's kind of where I'm at with this.
I think all the teams on this list that aren't the Heat may be able to learn something from the Heat, because at what point do all these teams kind of look themselves in the mirror and say, I know the Warriors Steph thing, it's like they're going to do with him with it whatever he wants, I think. And you could say the same about the Lakers and LeBron, but they have another guy in Anthony Davis. The Warriors have another guy in Draymond Green, who they've weirdly not been willing to ship out. And probably because of Steph's commands, but Suns with KD, it's like maybe Beal's the wrong guy to trade here. Like, maybe you trade Durant again, because like you said, Jake, like they have all these guys now and they're healthy and it's not working. The Lakers, yeah, they're the 5 seed, but they said it themselves. Like, they have to play perfect ball. The Heat, you know, they're obviously it's more going on there, and there's some drama in there, but they're willing to trade Butler. Like, and the Sixers, like, are we still trusting the process? Like, at what point do all of these teams just look themselves in the mirror and be like, hey, maybe it's just time for a shakeup, because you can get younger, you can get a bunch of assets. We saw Mikal Bridges go for freaking 5 first-round picks. Like, what do you think you can get for all these guys we're talking about? Draymond, obviously, you know, it's not much, but if they do go the route where they want to trade Steph, like, it's crazy, because I do think a lot of these teams could be super fucked for the future, but they also all have the opportunity to change that, and right now, if they wanted to.
Yeah, I think so, Donnie, but I also think too, in terms of the backlash, Phoenix would probably get the worst if they traded KD or something like that, right? So especially too, they just made the move, right, to trade the pick to the Jazz to get 3 extra. In anticipation, the only reason you make that move with the rest you have right now is to make another move. And if they made that move to then trade their best player, wouldn't end well.
Yeah. So we'll see with these teams. Steve, why don't you hit us with your big thing here, because it's pretty much the complete opposite of what we're talking about.
Yeah. So I was kind of negative at the start of this. We just went through teams that are kind of in shambles, and it's been a couple weeks. I'm not gonna lie, the NBA's been kicking me in the mouth right now. It's been tough, and I just want to ignore the Mavericks right now. I want to ignore the bad part of the NBA. I want to ignore that I watch a game and in the final 3 minutes there's 25 reviews. We want to ignore that. Get away with the bad, and let's talk about the good. And I want to talk about 3 teams kind of all in different spots right now. I think we can agree the 3 teams I listed are all kind of in different spots, but 3 teams that, since the new year has started, or really, since Christmas, these teams have kind of found a rhythm. They've kind of found their game, and they're all kind of flying under the radar. It's not the biggest markets in the world, which is part of the reason, but the 3 teams here I want to mention are the Sacramento Kings, the Memphis Grizzlies, and the Detroit Pistons. Let's start off with the Sacramento Kings because they had the coaching change, right? They had lost 6 straight games. Mike Brown finally leaves, and they get Doug Christie in here. And when, we watch the Kings, and I told you guys before this year started, the Kings to me are that ultimately best team. It's the game you put on. They tip at 10:30. It's usually a high-scoring game. It's a fun watch. And I think one of the most underrated off-season acquisitions this year was the Kings getting DeMar DeRozan. It just felt like not a lot of people were talking about it. DeMar DeRozan, who over the past 5 years has been one of the best clutch players in the NBA. He hasn't been on too many winning teams or big moments like that recently, but we've seen DeMar perform in the playoff. Like DeMar is one of those, clutch guys, big moments. He just needed kind of the right fit, and the Kings go get him. They already have De'Aaron Fox, who's kind of a closer, and they start off kind of slow. Coaching change happens, and oh boy, nobody's paying attention, but the Kings have won 9 of 10. The Kings have won 9 of 10. Malik Monk has been inserted into the starting lineup. Keon Ellis has been a big part of the rotation, and Keon Ellis has been, one of those guys no one talks about, but whenever you watch a Kings game, he can do no wrong when he's on the court. He can do no wrong. Domantas Sabonis is finally starting to play like an all-NBA type player again since the coaching change. You've got Fox, you've got Monk. DeMar DeRozan's averaging over 25 a game now with this team. You still got Keegan Murray, and this is a team right now where their position in the West, I believe they are the 7 seed. They're the 7th seed right now, kind of right on the cusp of the play-in. This would be a terrifying matchup for a top seed, because I know the defense sometimes can have questions, but the defense has been better since the coaching change to Christie. Their offense, if you look at any other team in the league, starting 5, De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, DeMar DeRozan, Keegan Murray, Domantas Sabonis, they can go toe-to-toe with anyone.
Yep.
In terms of everyone on the court's ability to, pass, ability to shoot, ability to, kind of create their own, all 5 of these guys can, and the defense, Sabonis has never been a great defender. Fox and Monk, they're not bad, but they're a little bit undersized, for guards, the way guards are now. I like DeMar DeRozan, but this is a team where I look at it and I go, if the Kings can just kind of keep rolling and get hot at the right time coming to the postseason, they could give a juggernaut team like, an OKC or a Houston or a Memphis or a Denver, a good series in the first round. But not only that, this is a team that's been playing some of the best basketball since the coaching change, where they could just move up. We could be looking at the Kings as like the 4-5 seed in the West. And I think everyone just kind of forgot about the Sacramento Kings and forgot about the DeMar DeRozan deal because of how they started. And as you know, Jake, as well as anyone, sometimes all it takes is a coaching change.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes all it takes is a coaching change. And I really think too many people are kind of sleeping on the actual talent on this Kings roster. Because like I said, I wouldn't want a healthy Mavs team to go up against this Kings starting 5. I don't think anyone would want to play this Kings starting 5 right now. They're one of the hottest teams in basketball. And this is a team that, like I said, has it figured out for the end game too, because they got 2 of the most clutch players in the NBA, De'Aaron Fox and DeMar DeRozan.
And like Sabonis just stays one of the most underrated players
Always.
in probably the last decade
Always.
of basketball. He's literally leading the NBA in 3-point percentage right now.
Yeah,
and he's a center. And it's not, he's not like you don't think of Sabonis and you think of a shooting big.
Right.
I was at the Kings-Celtics game on January 10th. It was a blowout. It wasn't close. It was one of the worst Celtics losses I've seen in years. And Sabonis had 28 rebounds and 23 points, 3 of 4 from 3. Like that was the first time I'd seen Sabonis play in person, and I was astonished. And this is a guy who just gets little to no credit, and he just does it night in and night out for this group. And I think we're far enough removed to say, and obviously things can change with Hallie, but I mean, right now the Kings won that deal, man.
Yeah, and the problem is, right, that no one really like talks about Sabonis because I feel like there's just a much better Sabonis in Nikola Jokic. But Sabonis is averaging 21, 14, and 6, Dunny, on shooting splits of 60, 48, 77. And not a peep. Not a peep. He's averaging 21, 14, and 6, 60% from the field. What do you want from this guy? The reason is he gets a lot of hate because his defense, kind of disappears, and he can get bullied in big games against a big. I get that, but sometimes you just gotta take the bad with the good, and he's one of the more gifted offensive big men. And like you said, Dunny, no one knows he's shooting well from 3. Now, granted, he only shoots about 2-3 a game, but that's what Jokic does. And no one's like, so, 60% from the floor, 48% from 3, 77% from the line. He's getting about 15 rebounds a game. He's been unbelievable since the coaching switch. And would you argue he's the third, best offensive weapon on the team? Right?
Yeah. And this is another thing to give the team credit as a whole. That same Boston game that I was at, De'Aaron Fox didn't play. Right. They smoked Boston at home, fully healthy. Derek White maybe didn't play that game, but I believe they were fully healthy. And you're talking about how sometimes he gets bullied by other bigs. Like he had 28 rebounds going up against Horford and Kristaps Porzingis. So
yeah.
Like he gets it done most nights. Kings are fucking awesome, man. And I know you have two other teams here. Oh, the last thing I want to say about the Kings is it's one of those things where the Mike Brown firing and all coaches come to his defense and was like, it's idiotic move by the franchise. It's like both things can be true. Like they needed a switch. Mike Brown's a good head coach. I believe both those things. Like it's very clear they needed a change. Like they've won 9 out of their last 10. The locker room obviously had a change of heart. They got behind their new head coach. They're winning games now. I don't think Mike Brown's a good head or a bad head coach. Something had to change. Both things can be true.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of right there with you. Sometimes all you need is a coaching switch because the final team I'm going to talk about actually did have they got one of the coaches that was switched out, and it might be working for him. But before we dive into the Detroit Pistons, I got to talk about the Memphis Grizzlies real quickly, and this will be super quick because in other years, right, with Ja when he was always in the news, before that when it was all flowers and dandelions for the Grizzlies when they were the next fun team, and before kind of OKC emerged when we thought it was Memphis, everyone just has kind of forgotten about the Memphis Grizzlies. And right now, Memphis Grizzlies are 29-15. They're in third place in the Western Conference. They have a point differential of 8.3 points a game, right, which is the second best in the West, only trailing OKC, and I believe it is the fourth best in the NBA, only trailing OKC, Cleveland, and Boston. And what if we talked about all year long is the 3 best teams in the NBA are clearly OKC, Cleveland, Boston. Whatever order you want to put them in, I don't really care. And no one's talking about Memphis, even when their point differential is closer to those 3 teams than it is to the teams behind them. And they've done this when only 19 of, I believe they played 44 games so far this year, only 19 of those 44 games, so about 40-ish, 45%, have Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson, and Desmond Bane all played together. So usually when that happens, you got to make up the room. They're They're 29-15. They're 14 games above 500. Their stars, their big three have only played 19 games together. They've been fantastic when they've all been on the court at the same time. But I think this speaks to a new Grizzlies team than the previous ones is the depth they have. And that's where I really love this Grizzlies team. And I think this is actually probably the biggest threat to Oklahoma City not winning the West is they match up athletically with Oklahoma City. They have kind of those versatile bigs. You have the big three, Jaren Jackson, Desmond Bane, Ja Morant, right? But Santi Aldama has been playing great in the role. Their rookie, Jalen Wells, who not one person is mentioning, has been one of the most consistent rookies all year long. When you talk about Grizzlies rookie, everyone's like, oh, Zach Edey. And Zach Edey's having a great year. But Zach Edey's been the second best rookie on the Memphis Grizzlies.
Everywhere.
Jalen Wells. They have your guy, Marcus Smart, who gives them so much stuff. Luke Kennard. Guys, Scottie Pippen Jr. is finding
G.G.
his.
Jackson.
He's finding it. G.G. Jackson, right? Vince Williams. They have so much depth. And they're finally getting healthy. And when this team's healthy, they might be the deepest roster in the league. And not only that, this is a young team. This is an explosive team. This is a fast team. This is an athletic team. And in my opinion, this is the perfect team to match up against the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I think maybe it's because of all the off-court issues the past couple of years, and maybe it's because they were everyone's darling young team, and then all that happened, and we just kind of forgot about them. But they're not getting mentioned at all. They're not getting mentioned at all. And I'll tell you what, a Grizzlies team like this, with the personalities they have, with the depth they have, with the athleticism they have, that team flying under the radar is terrifying. So I had to praise the Memphis Grizzlies because I don't understand it. Like the way they're talked about, you would think this team's right around 500.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think I don't know. I don't know if it's just because the expectation that everyone's had the last couple of years and they've almost disappointed. So now that they're doing it, everyone's kind of forgotten about them. And OKC is kind of the new sexy thing in the West here. Nuggets are obviously turning it on. But yeah, Grizz deserve all the credit here. They're not even fully healthy yet. They're still dealing with some nagging injuries to role players here. But yeah, they're awesome. They have depth everywhere. The Edey thing, it's like I think people just love to hate Zach Edey and based on the college thing, but like we almost ignored how solid he was and how a team like this can use a guy like that. Any team in the NBA could use a guy like Zach Edey. And they just utilize him great. And then Ja is, behaving. So
yeah,
this is the Memphis Grizzlies.
And they haven't even really unleashed Ja this year. Like they haven't asked him to be like the Ja Morant of old. They've asked him to be, do it in spurts, do it in time. But he's only they don't have anybody averaging over 30 minutes a game. Like this team is very much trying to keep the minutes low, keep everything light, don't show anybody anything. And I think once the playoffs hit, I think it's going to be a different team. I think that's the scariest thing. And then you start getting the Ja hero ball. Then you start getting the Ja and Jaren Jackson 40-minute games where they're running pick and rolls all game. And how do you stop that? Like at a certain point. So I think that their identity, that's a team that knows their identity.
Right.
And they haven't played like they used to. But I think they're saving some of their big stuff to use when it gets later in the season, like Ja really truly taking over, because that's still in him. Like he's not a 21 point per game player, in my opinion. I think he could average 28, 29 if he wanted to. I don't think they want him to. And I think he's behaving, playing his role, getting JJJ more involved in the offense and letting him be the guy that's kind of driving that. Aldama's been, as you mentioned, that Aldama's been awesome. Like in some games, it's really pops and he's like their best player. So they have like more guys that can kind of do it off the bench too. They're a fun team. They're awesome to watch. That is the team. If I was OKC, I'd be worried about.
I agree
the most, and because I think that they would match up really well with them athletically. I think that's the problem with a lot of these West teams with OKC. They can't match up athletically. Memphis can, like at least match it. They're not going to be able to out athletic them, but they're not going to get like blown over just because they're throwing out the lineups that OKC can line up against you on a night-to-night basis.
Yeah, And like I said, I just feel like they're just kind of flying under the radar. They don't, like you said, they haven't really unleashed Ja yet. I feel like it's a 1A, 1B, 1C situation with Bane, Jackson, Morant right now. And I think that helps them. They're playing as a team. And one thing we never questioned the Memphis Grizzlies for before all the Ja off-court stuff was their team chemistry. That was never questioned, and it feels like they have kind of that team chemistry once again, and that's scary because they got a lot more talent, I feel like, now than they did about 3 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Last team I got to mention. And you know what? This could be a team that loses 4-0 in the first round of the Eastern Conference playoffs, right? But the fact that I'm even mentioning the Detroit Pistons in the same sentence as playoffs is absolutely crazy. Right now, the Cleveland Cavaliers are first in the NBA in terms of projected win total from what was the preseason projected to now at plus 16, I think 16.3 win differential, which is crazy, right? Because they got rid of a guy named J.B. Bickerstaff and they moved on. Where would J.B. Bickerstaff end up going to? Where did he end up going to? He went to the Detroit Pistons, who are second in the NBA and win differential from preseason to now, where they were projected for 25.5 wins at the start of the season, and now it's 40.8, a differential of 15.3. The Detroit Pistons right now are in a position to make the Eastern Conference playoffs. They've had one of the best records in the NBA since Christmas, I believe. And this is a team that's doing it because Cade Cunningham is a friend of the program and heard what Dunny said about him about a month and a half ago. Because you want to talk about, and he won't get any recognition for it, but you want to talk about guys playing at an MVP level, it's Cade Cunningham. Because I promise you what, it's not that they added Tobias Harris and Tim Hardaway, two of our least favorite players in the NBA. Jalen Duran has been fine. Malik Beasley's been incredible off the bench. And Jaden Ivey was great until he got hurt. Hopefully he will be coming back soon. But Donnie, I got to open the floor to you now because I had to mention the Detroit Pistons because Cade Cunningham, a guy who was hyped up, a first overall pick, a guy that everyone loved, everyone talked about, and then we kind of forgot about because the Pistons have been horrible for 2 years, is playing not only like a superstar as of late, but like an MVP. And it kind of started right after a certain somebody on Happy Hour Hoops kind of really took a shot at him.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I regret lumping him in with Zion because Zion, I don't take anything back that I said about Zion that day. That holds true, but Cade completely proved me wrong. Probably was unfair at the time to question that because we forget we get spoiled with some of the young talent in this league, but this is a guy who's 23 years old, turning 24 this year, like still super young, still figuring it out. He's third in the NBA in assists right now. So he's just, I think that's the biggest thing for Cade, like just learning to trust his teammates more, getting back to what Cade Cunningham did. Like he's a playmaker through and through, but he's also, he almost navigated his scoring and playmaking at the same time. And it's really all just coming together. Like you mentioned, Steve, like this after Christmas, this team has been just awesome. They've been fun to watch. Big, in large part because of Cade Cunningham. He's the leader of this team. He's kind of taken over as the leader of this team. His teammates have recognized that he is that leader, and everything's working out. Everything's coming up Cade right now, and it's awesome. I'm happy for him. I didn't dislike the player. It was just like it was these two guys who got selected first overall, all the expectations in the world, small market teams. Where are we going now? Zion, we still see it. I think the disappointment's still there with Zion. Cade showed up, just so happened to be right after I questioned the guy. And here he is. He's one of the more electric players to watch in this league right now. And this is what Cade Cunningham was supposed to do, and he's doing it. So shout out Cade, shout out the Detroit Pistons. Like the Detroit Pistons are the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference.
Isn't that the craziest thing?
They're the 6th seed.
Isn't that the craziest thing to say right now? Pistons are at a playoff spot, and really, like, you look at their roster and you're like, how are they doing it? And it's just been Cade, man. He's putting up video game numbers. He's averaging, I think, 25, 6, and 9 right now. And since Christmas, it's been even crazier than that. Good shooting splits, and it's one of those things where if this happened 2 years ago, we'd hear about it every single night. Nobody. I mean, nobody's talking about Cade.
Yeah.
Not one person. And he's got the Pistons in a playoff spot with a team, which, no offense, but added, J.B. Bickerstaff's the coach and got Tobias Harris and Tim Hardaway Jr. We were laughing. We were laughing at the Pistons coming into this season. And now they're on pace to be a 40-win team. And not one person's talking about Cade. It's crazy.
It is crazy. And this isn't even me, wanting the Heat and Sixers to be out of the playoff race, but they, the Heat are the 9 seed right now, 6. A little bit of that. That's separate. That's something I want, but this is separate. The Heat 9 seed, Sixers 11 seed, but like, just listen to this. The 5 seeds the Pacers, 6 seeds the Pistons, 7 seeds the Hawks, 8 seeds the Magic. Like, that's fun to me. That's fun with these teams being here in the standings. Like, I like seeing the Pistons here. I like seeing the Pacers here. I like seeing the Hawks there. The Magic, I think the Magic are about to climb with Franz and Paolo both coming back. So
I think
obviously this is a Pistons thing that we're doing right now, but it is cool to see, because this is what people ask for. Like, we want to see the new young talent taking over the NBA. Cade and the Pistons are doing their part right now. I think Orlando Magic and Paolo have that going on a little bit as well. Trae Young is just kind of doing his own thing over there, but we talk about it all the time, the guys he was playing alongside him. Like, we love Jalen Johnson.
Yep.
And then the Pacers, that they kind of came onto the scene last year, but they're doing their own thing as well. They're 8-2 in their last 10. Like, the Pacers are playing great too. So it's cool to see new faces. And I mean, if this was the race we have for the rest of the season, like, the East is going to be just as exciting as the West as far as watching the playoff shakeout.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not going to jump the gun and say the Pistons are going to make noise if they get to the playoffs, but just the fact that we're mentioning the Pistons in the playoffs is kind of crazy how it is. And I gotta shout out my guy Drew, because Drew is in my ear every single day talking about he's a Pistons fan, be like, oh, watch out for the Pistons, watch out for the Pistons, watch out for the Pistons. I've just been ignoring him all the time, and next thing you know, now look at it, Pistons are the 6th seed and Cade's playing, but I probably wouldn't have even known that if I didn't have a Pistons fan just coming at me every day, being like, look what the Pistons doing, look what the Pistons are doing, because it's one of those teams no one cares about right now. But you're right, Donnie. I mean, that's kind of how you want people to start getting back into the NBA again, is we want them interested in these young teams, in these new teams that we don't see. And to your point, Donnie, I know it's full bias from you. It's not bias from me, but I'd love to see these teams in over the Heat and Sixers. I'm tired of them. I'm tired of those teams. Let's get new playoff matchups. I don't care if the Celtics beat the Pistons 4-0 by an average of 30 points a game. I would love to see a different playoff series.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. Shout out all those teams. It's good to bring those up. Kings, like, me getting the first glance at the Kings, seeing them in person was cool and kind of awakening. Grizz, as you mentioned, like, they're sitting at the top of the West somehow, still underrated. And then Pistons, like, just one of the best teams in basketball over the last like month and a half.
Yeah.
And so shout out those squads. My big thing here was just the trade deadline. Like, it's more of like a statement. I think we actually might have like a classic trade deadline in the NBA this year because of all the rumors we have, the Beal Butler thing that's going on. I know Levine, like, he's been in rumors the last like couple trade deadlines, but he's playing like unbelievable this year. So someone may actually call the Bulls and pay up heavy. And then you have the Middleton deal, who's kind of tied into the Butler Beal thing. So my thing is just like, if you're an NBA fan, like, could be a good year to be excited about the trade deadline. I know last year there was a lot of moves made, but really like the biggest name that got moved, if I'm remembering correctly, was like the Gordon Hayward to OKC thing that didn't really work out. So we might have some splashes here at the deadline this year. So something else to look forward to. And then only other thing we have, fellas, is game previews going forward. Starting tonight, Celtics, Lakers. Obviously, the most historic matchup you can have in the NBA. Celtics coming off a back-to-back. Lakers, we talked about them, right? LeBron and AD saying they have to play perfect basketball. Whether you like it or not, like it's crazy. Like Tatum and LeBron somehow, because LeBron just won't quit playing basketball, have had like some crazy battles already in Tatum's young career, like starting at age 19 for Tatum. They've gone at it in game sevens. They've had great regular season matchups. Tough for the East Coast guys like me who have to wake up early for work, but I'll at least be tuning into some of the first half tonight, and then I record every C's game, so I'll be watching the tape tomorrow regardless.
Love it.
But yeah, Celtics Lakers tonight. Any quick thoughts from you guys there?
I'm just excited. Like, I'm gonna take it all in just because how many more times are we gonna get LeBron versus the Celtics on the Lakers or not? It's been a huge rivalry. They've gotten each other so many different times. So that's a lot of the way I watch. I don't go out of my way to watch every Laker game anymore. Like I'm trying to catch as many of LeBron games as I can as it's coming near the end, but they're a painful team to watch. I do. But tonight's a game you gotta check out. It's gonna be a fun atmosphere there for sure with the Celtics coming into town. It'll be a blast.
I'm not gonna pretend like I'm gonna be super into this game. I like Jake is here. Nah, I'll probably be watching something else, but I'll check it in the morning and see that the C's won by about 20.
I hope that's true. The underrated wrinkle of this matchup is the psycho coach matchup between Redick and Joe Mazzulla.
True.
We'll see there, because Redick already came in this season feisty, and then definitely things not going the way him or LeBron exactly planned. So it's going to be interesting to see feisty JJ Redick down the stretch of the season too. So Psycho Joe versus Psycho JJ is an interesting wrinkle for tonight. Jake, your Cavs tomorrow night, Friday night against the Sixers. I put this here because hopefully Embiid plays, but people were hoping Embiid played during rivalry week against Jokic. Do you guys know that Wemby was in 8th grade the last time that Embiid played in Denver?
I saw that. It is embarrassing. And this is the issue, right? We're talking about Cavs Sixers, and our first point is hopefully Embiid plays. This is crazy, man. Cavs gonna kill him. Cavs are gonna kill him. And plus the Cavs.
Well, no Evan Mobley tomorrow night, though.
I know, but they just lost to Houston, and the way they lost to Houston, they're not losing. They're not losing again. I think Cavs come out hot. And I don't know Evan Mobley, but Jared Allen's been great. He really has been great this year. Garland's not going 3 from 8 from the line again. He better not. He lost me money because he went 3 from 8 from the line, but he better not do it again.
Darius Garland, how many free throws do you think he shot today? Oh, so many. Bro was
90.6% coming into the Rockets game. Right?
He's a lifetime 92% career, 92% free throw shooter.
Jeez.
He might have pulled an all-nighter. He might have pulled an all-nighter.
He might have stayed. He might have just stayed at the arena. Honestly,
he had a Kobe.
That's like a once in a lifetime. Yeah, exactly. That's like once in a lifetime for him to happen to him. Like if you're a 9 out of 10 free throw shooter and you miss 5 out of 8 in a game, that's insane. Yeah. That's insane.
3 of 8.
He needs Garland's one of the guys in 2K. When he gets fouled, the simulated broadcast calls him an ATM at the free throw line. Like he's one of those guys. And
this is me being a math nerd, but because he went 3 of 8, if he had his next 42 free throws, he would have just been 90%, not even a season average. That's how bad his start was. That's crazy. 42 in a row, and he's not even his season average.
And luckily for the Cavs too, they have this game Friday night, and then to get that taste out of their mouth, they have a back-to-back, and they host the Houston Rockets Saturday night. So if they want to get that revenge right away, win these next 2 games quick, your Cavs feeling good. And then Monday for the Cavs, hosting JV Bickerstaff and the Detroit Pistons, as we talked about earlier. So a little fun 3-game stretch for the Cavaliers.
They should have snuck that one into rivalry week. Little coach
honestly.
battle there. Jake, full confidence against Sixers here.
Yeah. I agree with Steve. I think they're going to be angry.
Yeah, I think so.
Back-to-back's tough, but I would assume full confidence against Rockets as well, just because of the bad taste in the mouth. Come back, hopefully throw the first couple punches and get out to a lead like the Cavs like to do.
The next 2 Thursdays, the Cleveland Cavaliers are on TNT. They will face the Atlanta Hawks next Thursday on TNT. That could be a game I'm really worried about. If they go 0-3 to the Hawks, danger zone. And then your Boston Celtics on Tuesday, February 4th, actually.
Yeah.
That's gonna be one to tune in for. Yeah. Don't get me started about the fucking Hawks, though, man. Those guys just don't quit. They'll beat anyone they want to, but then
if either of us have to play the Hawks,
that's what they do.
If either of us have to play the Hawks in the playoffs, I will be legit scared. Like I'm not comfortable
if that happens.
No, the Hawks are better against the elite teams than they are the terrible teams. It makes no sense to me. It makes no sense. Like, they got smoked by the Pistons too. The other night, the Hawks got smoked, and I was like, yeah, I know the Pistons have been playing great basketball as of late, but this is the Hawks. Like this is a team I'm watching that goes, to the end against every good team they play, and they just get smoked. I don't know. You don't want to see the Hawks. The Hawks should scare you.
They do. Last preview here. Wolves Nuggets, and super interesting here. Obviously, playoff rematch from last year. The Wolves just haven't been right, man. We had Ant earlier this year talking about them having some identity issues. And then the Nuggets, like we were a little worried about them early, and they've completely turned it around.
Yeah.
This is just it's going to be interesting. Obviously, Ant Jokic, like must-see TV Saturday night. So that'll be interesting. But yeah,
that'll be fun.
I think if you're a Wolves fan, probably a little worried. I just want to say a quick thing about the Nuggets. Like they've been playing awesome. And it's so crazy because we were worried about just the guys around Jokic earlier this year, right? Like never worried about Jokic if you're a Nuggets fan. He's always going to keep you in it. And we just said the guys around him either got to step up or they got to make a move. Over the last 10 games, Christian Brown, Russell Westbrook, Michael Porter Jr., and Jamal Murray have all been shooting over 40% from 3. And Westbrook's in on that list, guys. Westbrook's been shooting over 40% from 3 his last 10 games. He loves playing with Jokic. I know as a podcast, like I cannot get enough when I'm able to watch Nuggets games. I love this Jokic Westbrook connection that they're talking about being on the same page. And I think all 3 of us were like, this will weirdly work. And then the beginning of the season, we we're like, maybe Westbrook is, on a decline here, but it's worked out. Wolves Nuggets. Be sure to check that out Saturday night. Steve, I assume this was you who threw this in the dark. Celtics Mavs also play Saturday night, a rematch of the championship. And the only note we have from Steve here is no.
Yeah, I don't want to see that. That is not the rematch I want to see. We are in shambles. I would be shocked if Kyrie even plays because he doesn't want to play Boston, especially with this roster right now. We could be looking at the Quentin Grimes, PJ Washington show, which is fun in the first quarter until next thing you check before halftime and the Mavs are down 20. I'm not going to get into the Mavs because we're done. I'm not going to talk about the Mavs. The Celtics are going to win this game by a lot, Dunny. This will be a game that will probably start on my small screen TV, and it might be tough to see if we make it through 4 quarters.
Yeah, the only wrinkle here is like if Kyrie does play, if you're a Celtics fan, like that whole wrinkle is always a little fun. And there definitely will be some drama there. So yeah, that'll do it. Do we want to?
We got to do it.
Here?
We'll give the wheel a minute of our time.
Yeah.
I hope it's the Mavs.
Yeah,
that would be so funny.
Went long on everything else, but we'll give the NBA wheel a spin.
That's the Mavs you two are talking.
Hey!
Oh, Phoenix Suns. So yeah,
Phoenix
a team that we
Suns.
spent some
The
time
wheel's
on.
back.
Obviously.
Look who's back,
Wheel is
everybody.
back,
It's the
yeah.
wheel. Wheel just loves our misery. Go ahead, talk about the Suns. I'm done with
Here's
the Suns.
the thing.
We talked
about. I'm going to give the wheel a break tonight because we talked about like at least 20 teams in the NBA. So I feel like I'll give but we didn't talk extensively.
Oh, you are not about to take the wheel side.
I'm taking your side, Steve. I'm sorry. I wouldn't do that to you.
I take you.
We did talk about the Suns a lot. I don't have much. The Suns suck, bro. The Suns are just not fun either. Like KD is fun, and Booker is fun. It's not a fun experience to watch them play basketball. Slick loves the wheel. We all love the wheel, Slick. Well, we hate the wheel.
No, we do not.
I guess this can be our Suns talk. I want to ask you guys honest opinion on Devin Booker. Career this year, whatever you want to go. Devin Booker is one of those guys that I have a real hard time like putting my finger
higher on
Booker
than most.
Devin Booker is.
I'm higher on Booker than most. That's where I'm at. I don't think he's like a top 5 or maybe even 10 player in the league, but I'm higher on him than most people are.
I'm excited for him to buy Luka a Happy Father's Day card because he lost a friendly wager with Kevin Durant on the Commanders game. But hey,
that's awesome.
He's a good player, right? He's a good player, and I don't want to say this because I'm like one of the biggest KD fans, but I almost think the Suns adding Kevin Durant kind of almost hurt Devin Booker's growth and potential.
That's my exact opinion. That's my exact opinion.
Because I think Devin Booker was, on its trajectory to be a 1, and he was clearly the 1 for that Phoenix team before they got KD. And sometimes it doesn't really work like how it did with the Warriors, where KD and Steph kind of played together. I like Booker, and he's been great. I'm not saying he hasn't been great. I think he scored 30 plus in like 8 of his last 10 games, and he is a bucket. But I think the move to KD there almost just kind of kept Devin Booker, like I said earlier in the show, where he just kind of flatlined, where he's still a star. He's still one of the best, offensive weapons in the NBA, and we've seen this guy when he gets hot. He's as good as anyone to score 50 in a night. But with KD there, sometimes I feel like it's almost felt like the first year when the Mavs had Kyrie and Luka, where it was just kind of a little inconsistency at the end of who are we running the offense through? Who's the true number 1? Who's the true number 2? And like I said, I think the Suns have an identity crisis, and I think it kind of starts with their team because KD's 36, and I think he's trying to pass it on to Booker, but I also think sometimes too Booker's like it's still KD's. And I don't have anything against him. I like him as a player, but I don't think the KD move really was the best for his career.
I think that part of it, that I agree with that, everything you guys are saying about it. He should have elevated higher in his career at this point, but I think he's willing to do that for KD too. And I think that's kind of that's what I love about him is he doesn't give a fuck. He will play whatever role on whatever team, and he thinks KD and KD has the clout and the accolades, and obviously is still an incredible player, but it definitely has stunted Booker's growth. But if you told me they traded KD or Booker got traded to a contender or a team where he needed to be a number 1 and had a squad around him, I think he could step into that role tomorrow and excel and be a 30-point per game guy, like if he needed to. I think that's what I love most about him is he's an adaptable player, he's adaptable in that his skill set is like they had him fucking playing point guard last year. He had no business doing it, but he was willing to do it and try to take on the challenge and everything. But he is adaptable, but he's also, if he needs to take over and just be a dog, he can do that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I mean,
he has been lately. He's scoring 30 plus every single night the past like 3 weeks. And he's another guy too, Johnny, right? It's kind of just flying under the radar because the Suns haven't been good and KD's there. But like I said, I think we would have seen Booker in maybe not winning, but in MVP talks if KD was never there because he would have had to take on so much more.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So that's I just have a hard time like kind of grasping just because the finals run and now KD's here. It's not that I don't believe in the player or anything. I just he's one of those weird cases where it's like he's super
Yeah.
good.
Oh, yeah.
But like you never really actually know what's going on with D Book. Last thing I'll send you guys off with is the East All Stars just came out. So Jake, handshake across the stream here. Donovan Mitchell, starter for the Eastern All Stars, and Jason Tatum, starter for the East All Stars, along with Jalen Brunson, Giannis, and Karl Anthony Towns. So 2 New York Knicks in the starting lineup for the East All
Oh my
Stars.
god.
I don't know if Brunson
That's so
deserved
annoying,
it this
bro.
year.
He
I
does
think Towns
not.
did
He
it. I think Towns
does.
deserved it. This
Towns
year.
deserves it. Brunson should not
Yeah.
have been the point guard.
I agree. I agree.
Sneaky, maybe even Dame in that spot there over
Right.
Brunson. Cade. No,
I
I'm
Cade
just
over
yeah.
Brunson?
Though, even honestly.
But yeah, if you want to see the West, tune into our Twitter or X, our socials. Go to Happy Hour Hoops. Follow us everywhere, guys, at Happy Hour Hoops 1 on all socials. Follow Trainwreck Sports. Happy Hour Hoops presented by Trainwreck Sports, and I can't say enough about the train right now because Buffalo is firing on all cylinders. Shout out the Bulls. Shout out everyone involved in Trainwreck because this is an exciting time. So if you're not tuned in everywhere else, go do that. Follow us, like I mentioned, and thanks for listening, guys.
Go Bills.
Go Bills. Thanks,
Go
folks.
Bills,
Have a great
baby.
night.